I'm Ray Palmer, and my family and I, we've run a small organic farm for about the last 15 years. So we've been farming organically. We grow vegetables. And of course, I drew the short straw, and we've got the after lunch snoozy period. So I've got to put something in there to keep people awake. Farmer on his trusty steed. That's our patch. So our total area of production of vegetables is a bit under a hectare. We grow lots of different things. Complete variety: asparagus, zucchinis, and as much as we can in between. We pick a few wildflowers, and everything that we grow we sell at the Northey Street Farmers Market in Brisbane, and a little bit into the local farmers market in Stanthorpe, both of which are great. So the way we run Northey Street is we work as a collaborative with a bunch of other small farmers in the district. So we don't have to go every week. We can take it in turns with other people. So that's another picture of our farm stall. So there's produce from about 9 farms we take down to Northey Street. And that stall runs pretty much every Sunday of the year. We do that. In the past we have done laying hens as well. We have had beef cattle as well. We were among the first to do Summerlad heritage breed meat chickens as well. We kept pigs as well. And we did direct marketing of meat as well into produce boxes, which we did for local families, as well as the vegetables that we're still doing now. And so, in terms of the opportunities and challenges for local food, there are so many opportunities for people who want to, and I'm particularly talking from the farmer's perspective of the opportunities and challenges. There are so many opportunities that you can easily get ahead of yourself, ahead of what you can manage as an individual or as a couple or as a family, and you end up burning the candle at both ends. And so as I see it, and I see this, I've seen this other families, other businesses, you end up, and I've lived this, we end up in a situation where one of the most significant challenges for farmers in the local food system is burnout. Which is why why now we just grow vegetables and we sell them in a collaboration with other small farmers. We do that well. Instead of when we were trying to do all these other things and not doing them quite so well. So, this is a bit of an obscure photo, but this is the history of our farm. Now, no doubt there are people in this room who know up to 4 people in that photo. Because my family and I, we farm on the farm where my mother grew up. And the reason for putting this slide up is it's the history. So one of the opportunities that we have in local food is that the templates that we are aspiring to aren't new. So when my grandparents were farming, they had the kind of thing that we had. They grew some vegetables. The economic mainstay was fruit. They kept a few cows to keep the grass down. They sold to the wholesale markets. They sold remotely. So they would ship fruit directly to families. Once upon a time, you could put a box of fruit on a siding, any railway siding in Queensland, and it would be delivered to any other siding for a fixed fee. A lot of fruit from small farms used to leave this district that way. Grandad used to go around hawking fruit. So the kind of things that we're doing, that we're trying to do, have been done. We just need to rethink them in our modern age of Facebook and technology and increasingly pedantic and bureaucratic obstructions to what we're trying to do. What was that? It's a thing. It's another one of our key challenges, which I'll get to later on. So globally, pretty much, or at least in the weird world, the retail food dollar is split, rule of thumb, equally between production, distribution, processing, and marketing. And so what most farmers do is have a stool with only one leg, which is not a stable, anybody can see it's not a stable way to run a business, to live a life, is if you're completely reliant on one thing, which is well and truly at the whims of weather and pests and vermin and all that sort of stuff. So what we have consciously tried to develop is, and a lot of people in this movement, what we need to try and do is we need to get a stool that's nice and stable. We need to have our production, because we're farmers, and that's the fun stuff. Growing stuff, managing ecosystems, that's the fun stuff, from my perspective anyway. But in order to make ourselves nice and stable, we have to be in some way in these other production, processing, distribution and marketing. We can get more of the retail dollar into our pockets by being in these things, whether we have farmers markets, whether we do a farm store, whether we value add, whether we do some kind of distribute through collaborations or community supported agriculture schemes, or the new RICO thing, which I don't know much about, by the way. So farmers markets, I'll go back to farmers markets. Farmers markets are great. Farmers markets are, we have found farmers markets really, really useful. In fact, it's 100% of our income at the moment, which is not necessarily a good thing, but so be it. Our customers can be really, really dedicated. So I know by the gentleman in that photo that it's before 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Just by the face that's in that store. I know it's about 5:45 on a Sunday morning. I don't need to look at the timestamp on the photo. So we have developed a lot of really, really solid relationships with customers in the markets that we go to. And that helps a lot. So relationship marketing gives us the opportunity to, it's very forgiving. It's a very forgiving way to be selling your stuff. Instead of being at the whims of wholesale buyers and chain stores where if anything's not quite right, you're stuffed, you've got to throw it all away. With any kind of relationship marketing, we can focus on growing the stuff, we take it along and we sell it. We have these wonderful people, and if it's got a few perforations from a hailstorm, or if it's a little bit ruddy looking because it hasn't rained, people will still buy it. So there's a lot of forgiveness in it. Farmers markets are universal. So one of the things that's peppered liberally through here is old travel photos. This is the farmers market in Guernica, Spain, or the Basque country. Farmers markets are universal, so they happen lots of places, so they're very, very available. Ooh, better get moving. Despite the Wallabies jersey in the middle of that photo, that was not taken in Australia, that's in France. So now on to our produce box scheme. I'll go over this pretty briefly. We did produce boxes for 9 years, where we collaborated produce from local farmers and farmers from greater southeast Queensland. It's a very admin and labour intensive system, which is why we don't do it anymore. So that's just kind of it's there, they work, but they're very admin and very labour intensive. And then this is a great one. So I met this fella up near Kingaroy who had a very, very simple way of selling his produce. So this was still in the, there was emails around when he was doing this, but he would just give people a sheet of paper. He'd have on it what his stuff was available that week, and you fax back to him with what you want. Nice and really, really simple. Local food cuts across, so it's not just in horticulture. These guys were growing grain, milling it, making bread, selling it at farmers markets and a farm store. So that was pretty cool. These guys where we stayed with these guys for a month in France, and they raised pigs. They had a really high production value stalls where they value added stuff. So they took their pig and then they made it into delicious things, and they sold them for a significantly higher price. So whereas you might get a couple of $100 for a pig at the pig and calf sale, you can get, a roast of pork is a couple of $100 sold slice by slice in a bun, with plenty of theatre to go along with it to draw interest. There's nobody speaks French in here. It's a bit rude. Another guy here that we visited, he had so they grew multi-species grain. So they had wheat with lupins in it, or something, vetch maybe. And so they added that into pigs, which they then value added into small goods, which they then sold at farmers markets. These guys, a little dairy in the south of England, young couple, not sure whether they were on family land maybe, but this is in England, and what they did was they took their milk and made ice cream and sold it. So in Old Blighty, they would go to events and sell ice cream. Lots of different opportunities. Challenges. So an ivory tower is a bad place for people to be. So a lot of decisions made in ivory towers have really, really negative consequences on the local food, on people who are trying to develop and produce food and market food in ways that are in harmony with natural systems as much as possible. So most of the regulations that we have to deal with are essentially developed with the intent to manage bad outcomes that come from industrial food production. And so it takes bad food production you've got to be in economies of scale, which means you're probably going to be cutting corners to really justify the steps that are needed to comply with every single rule and regulation that you're going to be up against, particularly when you're dealing with protein, any animal product. Quick plug in there for the Australian Food Sovereignty Alliance. So AFSA is an organisation that I've been involved with in the past, so well worth joining. They do a lot of advocacy work for small farmers and small food businesses in terms of trying to get regulations changed to make them better for people who are trying to grow food in better ways. So CNF, Certified Naturally Farmed Granite Belt. So when we first started farming, we were certified organic, and that became clear to us that after a while, certified organic was very much aimed at the big end of town. It's expensive, and it's not necessarily that robust. So the auditor would roll up and they'd sit down at the kitchen table and go through a whole heap of paperwork and then have a little quick look and then sneak off to the next audit. So we developed our own peer review and peer certification system locally, which is a participatory guarantee scheme, which is where farmers are audited or are inspected by fellow practitioners. And so it's a lot less onerous and a lot less expensive for people to get into some kind of system which gives customers some evidence of authenticity. So we do that, and that's our Northey Street organic market is happy with what we do with that.
You sell produce on the Great Belt too?
Yes. So we sell, some of our stuff goes into the Friday market in Stanthorpe. Yep. So that's some, so it's one thing that we don't do very much, but so social media can be a very valuable, a very useful way to talk to customers and generate excitement and generate leads and tell the stories, because the stories that we have are often really, really good. And even a lot of farmers who are selling through conventional systems have good stories. There's just no way to tell it in a way that meaningfully connects the farmer and the eater. Opportunities. So since we started farming, there's been a lot of growth of good small farm technology. So that's a really nifty thing. So we can weed carrots without any hand weeding at all. So we just got this little thing that we push along and it flicks the weeds out from between the carrots. You can now buy a little mini rotary hoe that is powered by a drill, and you can buy greens harvesters to cut salad, powered by an electric cordless drill. And hoes. So when we first started farming, the only chip and hose you could get were this wide, made of that thick metal, and you swing one of those all day and you know about it. And since then, there's now plenty of places where you can buy tools that are really, really easy to use. So you can stand there and there's a lot more knowledge and a lot more tools and technology available for small farmers these days. Winding up now. So one of our main opportunities, one of the things that we like most about farming is the ability to nourish ourselves with the kind of food that you cannot buy. So some Vicola pears and homemade salami and heirloom tomatoes and huitlacoche. Anyone? Anybody know what that is? No. So there's a kind of corn fungus, and it's delicious. But you can only have it if you grow corn yourself and you get the right season where you end up with it. It just appears. It's a disease. It's a not desirable thing to have in your corn unless you want a feed of mushrooms or Mexican. What do they call them? Mexican truffles or something. So yes, we all have our setbacks, hailstorms and cows getting into the veggie patch, and irrigation happens, mishaps. A little bit too much rain there. But on the whole, we like having the opportunity to raise our children in a way that they have all kinds of experiences that are very, very unusual for too many kids these days. And any questions?
Yeah, how do we find you? I mean, you've got a produce, you have a farm where you sell your product?
Locally, the only place you can buy our stuff is at the Friday market.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, so we kind of have to go where the money is. And we've tried a lot of local marketing in the past. For 9 years, we did produce boxes locally. And we found it a very, very difficult thing to make work economically. And even when it was working economically, which is when we were doing everything ourselves, it quickly contributed to a burnout. So when we were doing all these different things, growing vegetables, four different kinds of animals, going to farmers markets, organising all the butchery and abattoir stuff, it's a lot of work. And so we have just made things really, really simple. So we grow vegetables, We sell them at farmers markets. We still do have chickens, we still do have pigs, we still do have cows, but they're a hobby now. They're just for us. Any other questions? I've got 5 minutes left. I was hoping for some questions. Any other discussion?
Have you looked at Australian grasses at all? The Aborigines used to make their own, what is it?
Yeah.
Have you looked at any of those?
Okay, so the question was, have we looked at any native grasses and native grains? So, native grasses, not so much. Although when I look at the Guinea, I don't know the genus name, but we have the sausage. It's kind of like the lamandra, which is the blady stuff that happens in the creeks with its little points. When you see that stuff and you grab hold of it and you've got this whole little handful of red grains in your hand, that's really tempting. But we haven't looked into it. And the other thing that's locally that is extremely productive and that I would like to learn more about and do more experimentation with is the Brisbane wattle, the Acacia fimbriata, which drops massive amounts of seeds. So we do manage. So we are blessed. We've got about 114 hectares, and we make our livelihood on less than one. So we've got this whole heap of extra country which we're just managing as best we can for natural and heritage values. But at the moment, the only significant yield that comes out of that is the wildflowers, which is actually really, really nice because they happen in late winter, mid to late winter, which is when everything else is not producing. On that, there was something else. But that is an incredible opportunity. So one of the things that has guided our decision making over the last few years is a quote. I don't know who it came from, but Darren Doherty told us was that as farmers we spend a heck of a lot of time and a lot of resources keeping alive. No, it doesn't matter. Keeping alive things that just want to die and killing things that just want to live. So one of the things that we try to do, and growing vegetables isn't the way to do it, one of the things that we're working on in the background is how to turn that on its head. And so back to your point, I'm extremely interested in those sorts of things, trying to make our economic livelihood from things that want to live and things that are a part of our ecosystems. So forestry is another one. So this landscape here wants to grow trees. So we have dabbled with milling in the past. We have got a little sawmill. We've made tomato steaks and sold them. But that's a difficult market to get into. And it's kind of, there's a lot of opportunities, but once you start getting outside your comfort zone of vegetables, the marketing starts to get difficult. I mean, we've got all these trees and we can chop them up into little bits, but then what do we do with them? How can we make our economic livelihood out of them? Because back to my grandparents, when how are we going? 2 minutes? 1. Too easy. So as a lot of people might know, my uncle Tom Dunn, he grew up on the farm where we are, and he'll tell you that as a kid, he would spend all weekend and all of his school holidays killing trees, ring barking and sucker bashing trees to try and get rid of trees. And when he left home, there were more trees than when they started. So the landscape around here wants to grow trees, but how can we turn that into an economic livelihood? So those are opportunities that we still haven't harnessed yet. How to use what wants to grow to do our economic livelihood. Some of that might not involve food.
Yeah, thank you.
Back over to you, Mr. MC.
That's great.